So I watched a movie as old as the one I watched recently from 1937. It's a slightly interesting mm, context, I suppose. Not exactly in the well, um, that seemed to be a historical really that I watched last time. What was it called again? Yeah, it was very memorable. Um, but this one wasn't, to be fair, wasn't historical either. Well, it was still was, I don't know, just a bit of interest. It's just some fictional tale really, and it's a comedy at that, so nothing to do with anything that was going on in the country at the time. Although, of course, with hindsight, with very long hindsight, sort of interesting to try to see. So yeah, this is called Senior Max, right? And apparently it had three other remakes, with the latter one being the actor's son during the same movie, apparently. 60 years later, that's quite something. Not exactly 60 years, 50 something. But yeah, so yeah, it wasn't that funny, to be fair. I mean, it had more of a attempt at romance than drama, but I mean, it was drama, not comedy as such. I really don't. I mean, comedy could be anything, really, I suppose. But I don't know if there was anything quite specific when this sort of comedy at the beginning of cinema, because if you have Charlie Chaplin, that's slapstick, so quite different from this. This wasn't slapstick at all. And there were a few comedic parts, but not quite regular or anything. It was more regularly romantic, but otherwise, the comedy wasn't laugh out loud as such, except for maybe a couple of moments. I don't know. Yeah, uh, it was it was okay, but it's still sort of mediocre. I don't know. It seems like an obscure movie at any rate, but even those who have had watched it apparently seem to think, on average, highly of it. Not too much, but still highly. Um, I mean, yeah, it was better than this that I watched last year, certainly. Um, what was it called again? Passenger to London, which was made in the same year. Only mentioning it because I just watched it recently, and it's the same year. It's not even done by the same country, though. So, but yeah, it's the same year, not even the same genre anyway. In terms of which held more of my interest, so it was certainly this. You know, it's sort of like an Ealing comedy in a way. Maybe it's somewhat something similar, sort of. Yeah, but still, yeah. It's weird to see, just so many. Obviously, pretty much all the actors and anyone to do with it are dead at this point, except for one. Apparently, there's one who played, I think, the supposed 12-year-old. I think she was more like 17 or something. So back then, and she is 101 this year, so that's quite something. Um, she didn't do exactly much in the movie, but yeah. Um, Otherwise, though, I mean, what's interesting is obviously the context of where it was made, when it was made. And at that point, this was like the midpoint or so of Mussolini's coup, you know. He had taken over, I think, was it 20s? And yeah, and apparently it was literally made or distributed, apparently, I think, by this organization, which normally made propaganda. No, as far as we know, this wasn't quite propaganda at all. I mean, it's a comedy really. So, except though there was one picture at the end that I noticed, not quite a lot. I mean, it only lasted for like a minute or something. When they were mentioning an asylum and whatnot. I don't know if it was intentional or something that just happened to be inside, or something that was forced to be inside. You know, knowing these regimes how they work. Uh, but yeah, I mean, you know, as far as propaganda goes, so it's not quite there at all. I mean, in terms of the script, though, the story and such, there wasn't much at all, except for perhaps I don't know. I mean, if one can stretch it, I guess. I mean, it's not like, you know, he did end up, you know, settling in with, you know, the so-called maid, but really in such circumstances, you know, when if somebody really does fall in love, unless of course it's not reciprocal, which case, you know, but either way, I mean, it's not like he was really in love with the other one as well. So, but yeah, in such circumstances, but I don't know if you could sort of stretch it a bit and, you know, wonder whether they were saying that maybe, you know, people should only marry, you know, their own um, class or whatever, but it's really it's it's not really anything major. It's just, you know, it's it's really just another, you know, movie really of such simplistic sort of comedy. As I said, it's something like I didn't like. I liked it, but yeah, I think I watch more old movies. I don't know why I don't normally watch old movies. They have something, and then the could also, I mean, obviously they're all different, just like modern movies are different. But it's a bit of a pity that people, including myself at times, you know, seem to have some sort of somehow prejudice. Uh, just because a movie might be, you know, not full of vibrant colors, you know, doesn't mean that it's anything worse, really, in terms of story, at least. And, as long as one values story, really, they all have a story as well, or could have a story, you know. Yeah, I mean, you know, stuff like modern movies usually have a story that you can be as vacuous just because they have color doesn't mean much. So yeah, otherwise, so that's pretty much it. Uh, it was interesting. I'll probably try this cinema more at some point. I think this might have been the first old Italian movie I ever watched. Watched other Italian movies at some point in the past, but not quite. I don't think I've ever watched black and white movie. Really old. I think this is the oldest Italian movie I've ever watched. Uh, I mean, I had never heard of this corporation before, you know, but apparently called Luge or something. Um, but yeah, still exists somehow. Uh, but yeah, I think I'll probably watch more of the same directors as well. Mm, but not soon because apparently he's one of those directors who uses the same actors and such. It's a bit confusing. Apparently, the same actor also plays some other. This time, I'm assuming truly wealthy person or so, something. I don't know, but they seem to stick to stereotypes and typecasts. So in this sense, I mean, you know, I might not watch very soon, but I will probably watch more from either this era or this country, or I don't know, just maybe old movies generally. Really, I think that could be interesting. Also in terms of their historicity, I think mainly as opposed, you know, to modern movies which really have cannot have history due to simply, you know, time not having passed enough.